Okay, now that I've tried this once before, hopefully we can at least make it a little further before I have such a major hiccup. Um, First off, I came in to my Project 4, renamed it Project 5, deleted my, I believe we had forms down here with a bunch of coding, just got rid of that. Table products don't actually need to change anything for this project, so just close that. Your table customer, need to make sure you have 2 states, Virginia and Nevada for me, 2 cities in each state. Now I already had these 2 in here, so I just left them. And then in each of those 2 cities, you need 2 companies. So make sure you have that first off. Ignore the fact that my credit limit is way too low for my balances. Doesn't really matter, just was a pain in the ass for Project 4. So in table order trans, or in class, it's usually AR transac, depending on what you had. I had to delete a few of my error checking for prod num. If it was recording as a charge instead of a payment, you should probably go ahead and take that out. It looks like that's going to be a major headache later on down the line. I'm also going to delete this one because there is no actual payment. I also changed from QTY to quantity, new charge to charge, and new payment to payment. Again, this is just kind of a simple thing to go along with his naming formats and what he talks about in class. Alright, so now that you have all of that done, we have to create a report. So we go to the Create tab, come over to Reports, select the Report Wizard. Don't need anything from Table Products, it just goes to the one that you have selected. So from Table Customer, it looks like we're actually going to want everything except for balance. We're actually going to create a text box that computes that behind. And then select table order trans. And we're going to want the trans date, the product numbers, quantity, charges and payments, I believe. This should be fine. Again, this should be fine. And here we want to change, select trans date from the drop down, select descending, and then we want to select charges, descending. Now, I believe we could have actually done this a bit differently, but this is what he's done in class. So for clarification purposes, I'm just saying I'm following instructions. So now we want to select summary options. We want to select charge. Well, not really select, we want to select sum and max beside charge. We'll select calculate percentage of total for sums. Okay. Next. Next. Name this RPT customer invoice details. Just straight out of the instructions for Project 5. Finish. Those are the exact things he did in class. So I had literally no thought going into that. So first off, before we do anything else, I'm going to rearrange all of this stuff. All of these little hashtags or pound signs or number signs, whatever you want to call them, is just because they're too squished together. And this is tricky because these, well, these headers don't control these, which don't control these. So we have to realign all of them separately. I'm going to make my customer number a little bigger. Company name's probably a bit big for me. Make it as big as you need. You can change it later if need be. Credit limit. They don't look to be lined up. City, my city names are all rather short with the exception of Las Vegas. I usually highlight to move so that way I move both of them and don't have to do it separately. My state name are all 2 letters. You make that pretty short. Highlight. And I'm keeping city a little large right now just because of Las Vegas. If all your city names are the same size, it'd probably be a bit easier. So now we need the transaction date, and this is where it gets confusing for me. So there's your transaction date header. I'll make mine a little wider to make sure. Now, the actual transaction date itself is down here, 2 steps below it. We're going to pull this over. You're definitely going to want to make this wider. Now we can highlight both. Align left. Some of these will come back in and realign because they're numbers and they're currency, meaning that they actually type in coming out of the right side of the box first. And it just looks a little hinky if you line them up with the actual text. Take some playing. See how they're already not lined. Really not very well thought out. So this we can probably shrink down later, but it shouldn't matter as long as they're all the same size. It should just make so what's going to happen for me right now is that my payment big enough. So let's see what we got going on. Oh, while we're here, just come down. Let's actually see if I can do this. I think I can highlight all of them, drag them all. This way they're all the same size. This looks a little. So transaction dates are still not wide enough. Charges, I believe we need to align these to the right side. I told you it's weird. Shit. Just fitting it all in. This needs to be larger. You're just going to have to play around to fit your stuff specific. Not too well. So, go ahead and save. All you gotta do. So now, it's the basics of everything that we need. Kind of the goal is this is actually the first rendition of the report that we did in class. But all of this, little boxes and things, is formatting. I wasn't there for it, so I don't think that I'm going to really worry about it until I can actually find someone that knows what they're doing. This is just a little realigning of things. And you can see that he didn't align them straight, which bugs me. So we will come back in here, go with this. I'm going to pull them all in there. bottom. Horizontal, spread a little bit. A little prettier. Now, to get rid of this depth, all you have to do is then come. So, it's at least a little easier to look at. I think these should be a little more across the page, though. This is nitpicky stuff, but at the same time, it's kind of what sets some basic reports off. Align. Just a little prettier. Alright. So, what else do we need to show on this form? Alright, we'll take a look at our groupings. We already did this. We actually did this by going through and setting them. So you just right click here, select sort and grouping. You can click on it and it says smallest to largest, newest to oldest, largest to smallest. When we actually created the report and did the ascending and descending selection, it did all that for us. We don't actually have to apply anything. But it is listed in the instructions, so make sure you have it right. What else we need for this report is we need to just show our sum of charges. And it's going to be, for us, it's charges minus payments. In class, I believe that you only had to use charges. And for the specific customer. So what that means, to show you, is we need to make this box right here. Really not as complicated as it looks. So, keep switching back and forth and be a pain in the ass. You probably put it where you want it. I tend to just copy what he does because he's the one grading it. So let's come back over to ours. Here's our custom header. If we take a look, our custom header is pretty full on it. Here. I wouldn't recommend doing that. I'm thinking doing it this way to please him. You know what? Just because we have these titles and it's confusing, I'm going to actually probably throw it right here. So, this is how we're going to do it. Come back into design view. This is our target. Go to